on to Villagers.
Yeah.
Who I hadn't heard of.
Nope.
And this is actually quite embarrassing that we hadn't heard of them, because apparently their first album, Becoming a Jackal from 2010, was Mercury nominated.
Oh, yes.
So that really passed us by.
No, that's passed me.
Yeah. As we said, we kind of test drove this album just at the weekend.
Yeah,
with a couple of additional
listeners.
Yeah. And they weren't that impressed.
No, which was more the pity, really, because I actually of the collection this month, I found this one of the stronger albums that we listened to.
Yeah, it's a kind of interesting record. It's kind of it's I mean, it's folky.
Yes.
At its heart, but it's kind of folky with a kind of Radiohead mentality.
Did you also notice that as an album, it begins quite quietly, and then as each track is added to the album, it's almost like another instrument is pulled out of a cupboard somewhere.
Yeah.
Until you get to the sort of the last couple of tracks where it is really just a free-for-all of everything that they've got and the kitchen sink.
Yeah, it does start off very sparsely.
It does start very sparsely, but it builds across the album. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I thought it reminded me quite a bit, particularly the first few tracks of Low Anthem. And then you get the quite quirky Earthly Pleasure after that, which I found myself hearing bits of Ernie the Fastest Milkman in the West.
Oh no!
In just
Thanks
the way
for ruining
there,
that for
just
me.
just the kind of delivery. And then you've got Waves, obviously, which again starts and then builds, and then has the kind of serious kind of Radiohead out guitars at the end, which particularly annoyed the girls at the weekend.
Yeah.
And there's a few other tracks that I quite liked. Obviously, you've got their Arcade Fire impersonation on Nothing Arrived, which is probably the best Arcade Fire song that Arcade Fire haven't recorded.
Yeah.
So showing they can be kind of almost poppy and commercial. In fact, I'm not sure if there's a single off this album, but that would be my pick to have as a single if I was releasing a single off this album.
And passing a message as well, actually, was in a similar vein.
Yeah. And then it kind of, I think, hangs together quite nicely, and it ends up with Rhythm Composer, which, as you say, is almost fitting in the way that the album's kind of built, with adding bits and bells and whistles and things, and as you go. So it's kind of quirky, is how
it has a Dark Side of the Moon sort of fade out or freak out as well.
Yes,
buried in there somewhere. Sort of mid Dark Side of the Moon.
Almost light Side of the Moon.
Yes.
Yeah. So I agree. I thought this was certainly a band that were interesting and certainly worth checking out. Whilst I'm sure the album won't appeal to everybody.
No.
And even bits and pieces of the album won't appeal to everybody. But I think the guy who's the main thrust behind it, whose name's Conor O'Brien, whose voice reminded me of Paul Simon on several of the tracks.
Certainly the opening track, My Lighthouse, could have been a Simon and Garfunkel tune.
But I also thought on Judgment Call and The Bell there are also kind of hints of that coming through. So I thought they were certainly a band to watch.
Yeah, I think if I was going to say, if you like Mumford and Sons,
the Grammy multi-year winning Mumford and Sons, have been pretty cleaned up.
I actually think they're better than Mumford and Sons, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, they're less commercial.
Yeah, certainly more interesting.
Yeah, they're less commercial, and apart from, I suppose, Nothing Arrived, less sing-along-able.
Yeah.
But
that's what keeps things interesting.
Yeah, and in fact, the sing-alongable aspect I will come back to on one of the other reviews that we'll get to shortly.
Sure.